Hi, we're going to start with putting a slip knot on our hook. We start by, this is how I teach a slip knot. It's not the easiest, but it's halfway to a technique that I think you'll need to learn later on. So please persevere, it's worth learning the extra bit now. So we're going to wrap the yarn around our fingers. We cross at the back, we tram track on top. What we do then is we pop the hook under the first strand and we catch the back strand, and as we're pulling it through we give it a twist, and that gives us our slip knot. I'll do that again with you. So dangly bit at the front, we wrap the yarn around our fingers, cross at the front, tram tracks on back, pop the hook under the first strand, catch the back strand, pull it round and through and give it a twist. There's our slip knot. So now we're going to do a left hand setup, which is also another thing that people struggle with. Now the reality is you can hold the yarn however you want, but we need a little bit of tension. So let me show you how I do it. So I hold my hand horizontally, I put the yarn between my little finger and my ring finger. I turn my hand vertically and I hide the yarn underneath my ring finger. Now can you see that my hook is sitting on top of my index finger? That is the tension that we want. We want to keep that tension like that. So now I'm going to do a pinchy finger. Now can you see where I'm pinching? I'm pinching behind the slip knot so that it gives me that free vision or free working space of the yarn. So don't do this. We can't be covering that yarn. So the pinchy finger is held back there. So what we're going to do now is just spread our fingers in the same way, give yourself a little bit of working space. And whilst we're hanging on to the pinchy fingers nice and tight, we sweep the hook away from knuckle to fingertip. And then we catch that yarn and we pull it through the loop that is on your hook. Now it doesn't always go through smoothly, but remember, pinchy fingers will give you control. Now we don't want to be pulling down on the pinchy fingers, we just need them to hold everything in place. So spread your fingers, get your working space for your yarn. We sweep away knuckle to fingertip and we pull through. Now what will happen is fingers will go all over the place. You will decide how you want to do this. And let me be really clear, there is no right or wrong way to hold the yarn or to hold the hook. It's however you want to do it. So I'm going to carry on and I'm going to make 13 stitches, or 13 chains, because that's what I want for your homework. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would start by working a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. Now the reason we chain the 4th chain from the hook is that when we start to do our stitches, these 3 chains that we've skipped will become our turning chain, and I'll talk about that later. So I've set my left hand up, and what I'm going to do now is a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So I yarn over, put my pinchy fingers down by the 4th chain from the hook and I poke through the work, and then I yarn over again and I pull up a loop, and I've got 3 stitches on my hook. I yarn over and I take off 2, I yarn over, take off 2. Now I normally tell people when they struggle to find where they're looking to poke next is to look for the big hole. I don't know if you can see that big hole there. That tells us where we've been, and we go to the next full stitch to the left. So pinchy fingers down by that, yarn over, and I'm going to poke in. I'm going to yarn over again, catch the yarn, pull up a loop, 3 stitches on my hook. I'm keeping these stitches nice and flat. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm going to do that all the way to the end of the foundation row. Okay, that's my foundation row completed. I don't think I've got 13, I think I've got 10 actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, sorry, you probably have 10. And now I'm going to turn the work. And this is where people get a bit nervous and they're not exactly sure where to go or where to poke next. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is tilt the work towards you, and you'll see a nice row of chevrons. And those chevrons are where we poke. They're the same shape, they look the same, but they're at the top of the stitch. So now I'm going to go through rules 1 and 2 with you. So rules 1 and 2 are to chain 3 at the beginning of the row, and I'll show you that in a second. But then rule 2 is to skip the first stitch, because the chain 3 acts as a double crochet. So if I call that position 1 and I call that position 2, we skip position 1. We don't work this stitch here. We poke our very first one into there. So I'll show you now. Oops. Chain 3, skip position 1, and we do our double crochet into position 2. But it's slightly different this time in that we're not poking through the middle of the stitches, we are poking underneath them. So we are just going to skim under those 2 chevrons. We pull up a loop through the work, catch the yarn over, take off 2, yarn over, take off 2. Now it's quite normal to have a little hole there, a little bulge. And what I'm going to do now, I'm yarn over, I'm ready for my next stitch. I'm tilting the work towards me. I can see there's a nice chevron sat there waiting for me. Skim under, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, take off 2, yarn over, take off 2. So I'll do that again for you. Yarn over, find out where I'm going to poke, and see that nice fresh chevron there waiting for us. Skim under it, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 stitches on your hook, yarn over, take off 2, yarn over, take off 2. And you continue in that way until you get towards the end of your stitch, and I'll show you I'll show you all about rule 3. So we're coming towards the end of our first row. We've nearly finished it, and if you tilt it, there only looks to be 1 full chevron left, but I can see that we've still got this turning chain here. And what do we do with that? Well, let me tell you. So let's work that last chevron first, in exactly the same way we've been doing all our others. Whilst we've finished off all the chevrons, I can't really see any chevrons. We know that we haven't finished. Well, many kids are quite a way off from the end of our row. I don't know whether you can see that, but there's quite a bit of distance between that and that. So at this stage, there's 2 ways you can do it. By eye, so that I can see that there is still something to be done before we hit the end of that row, or by counting your posts and your turning chain. So I know I had 9 at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know that there's 1 left to do. Now the turning chain is made up of 3 chains. I am going to head for the 3rd chain, and I'm just going to poke into it. I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'm going to work it as though it's any other double crochet. And what that does is it neatens up the end and makes sure you get your correct amount of stitches. So just to confirm, rules 1 and 2, they are to work 3 chains at the beginning of your row, skip position 1 and put your first stitch of the row in position 2, and then when you come to the end you work your last chevron, but you must remember to work that turning chain. If you don't, that's where you'll have your problems. Well, I hope that's helped, and we'll see you at class soon.